Good afternoon, everyone. This is Friday again with me, my friend Deborah from Deborah H Dickinson. Hi, Deborah. How are you?
I'm doing really, really well, thank you. So here we are again, another week down, another week, another interview. So looking forward to it. How has your week been, Imran?
This is an amazing week and one of the remarkable week. You probably witness of my great day, one of the great. uh, I had I had a business presentation and lots of people was there and it is a good. I connect with lots of people. So that's a good week. I couldn't forget that. How about you, Deborah?
Well, it was so good to be part of your. We talked a little bit about this last week, the challenge that you had set yourself, and it was so good to see all of that come off. And some great outcomes from that. It was absolutely awesome. But what else have I done this week? I've been very much concentrating on what value I can add to the community, my clients. So I've had a busy week putting all that together. And I'm really, really looking forward to our guests coming on board because I know there'll be a lot of value add for our viewers around this. So absolutely awesome. So what else for you? Like, what's your takeaway from the week that's been?
This week is like we all in Victorian waiting for Sunday for an announcement. Sunday we know what's gonna happen. We're gonna open our studio or we're gonna open our business or what we're gonna do. That's the one of the thing I'm not only me but also all the business owner in Victoria. They are waiting what will happen after Monday after what the announcement is coming. So that's
Yeah.
I'm looking forward that. Apart from that, I'm doing another workshop with your like with South Kingsville Community Center. So
Mm-hmm.
they hired me to do another photography workshops, and also I'm getting ready for like if I have to open this week. So I have something to do to make the door open for my studio. So
No.
this is another week. Like we still don't know what will happen next week,
Yeah.
but I'm getting ready for that.
Yeah. Yep. I think we've learned to be ready for the unexpected. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So on that note, Imran, what is it that you do? So let's tell everybody a little bit about us, just very quickly, and then we'll wrap into introing our next visitor.
Okay. So this is Imran Abul Kashem. I am an award-winning photographer, and I'm the owner of Westend Photography. Me and my team are taking photos of business and the professionals to empower them and to take out best look from them. And we say you won't get a second chance to make your first impression. So to make your first impression in online, we are here. So that's I do.
Awesome. Awesome.
What
Um,
about you?
Yeah, so for me, being in the personal life coaching space, I work with that purpose-driven person who has just kind of lost that fire in the belly, whether that's through burnout or, just self-doubt. And they know that they want more. They know that they've got the drive. They're just stuck where they are right now and just need help building back up that impeccable mindset. And I really, really enjoy helping people move through their spaces that they feel that they're stuck in. And a lot of what we're going to learn today from our next guest is around yoga and mindfulness. And I feel that we're going to learn. I think we're going to get schooled today about what yoga really is. So I'm looking forward to that because I think there's from the conversations we've had with Jeanette, there's this misconception of what yoga actually is. So I'm really looking forward to learning more about that. Do you want to do the intro? How are we
Yeah,
rolling?
I would say I know Janet like around 1 year. If I feel like when I see Janet, like it's positive energy coming. If you see someone, it's always positive. And when I talk to her, I always gain some energy. So she's an amazing personality. and I always love to talk with her. Let's introduce with Jeanette with us. Okay, welcome,
Excellent.
Jeanette.
Hello, it's great to be here.
Nice to have you. So looking forward to today. I know Imran usually rolls straight into his question, but I just want to, I made a kind of I suppose, an assumption there that we're going to learn a little bit more about what yoga actually is. So I'm looking forward to hearing about that. But tell us, how has your week been?
My week's been fantastic. So I've been doing a heap of different things throughout the week, and COVID's been really interesting for me because it's given me some really great opportunities to kind of level up, even for myself. So, I'm talking to my clients about leveling up, but I still need to do the same thing, right? We're all on a journey. So it's not just about what you're giving to other people. It's about always raising the bar for yourself. And you understand that, Deborah, because that's what we do.
Yes.
So I've done a bit of that, and I've had some great time with some kids and with some professionals, and really talking around a key topic this week for me, which is about empowering women, but in that space in the corporate world where we know there were a little bit lacking in the decision-making space. So really about equality and equity for women in the workplace. It really needs to improve a lot. So it's been a really interesting topic that I've been discussing with people this week.
Yeah, just on that, because you've mentioned it, what do you think COVID's done for the little steps that equality has made in that corporate space for female? What do you think this is COVID? Do you think COVID's is going to have an impact on that?
I think it's potentially going to have a positive impact, because I think that most people are thinking about things a little bit differently now, right? Let's face it, when you get stuck in a position where you feel like you're controlled, and so when people are been put into lockdown, haven't been able to go to work and do their normal socialization habits, right? The things that you kind of manage to hide below the surface that you don't want to deal with are the things that rise up, right? So we definitely are seeing that, but also and there's a good side to that as well, right? So those things are rising up, but what it's also doing is bringing to the surface the things that are now important in life, right? And so I think people are starting to realize the value of all of us. So not just the value of women, but the value of us all, and that the people in their life put in their life. So I think potentially it could be a good thing for equality for women, that we might start to look at women in the workplace a little bit differently.
Yeah, and it's a great point that you make. It's not just about women, it's equality all over, isn't it? And people are thinking very differently and becoming more, as you and I know, when you start looking within yourself, you start to be more compassionate to your community around you, because it's just a natural force of energy, which is a word that Imran used in the beginning to describe how he feels when he sees you.
He projects exactly the same thing.
Yes, he does. He does, absolutely.
That's probably why he gets it, because he puts the same thing out.
Yes.
Is a similar mentalities around here. But I asked you this question before, like we started with a why. That's like any conversation and any business we get, we started from the why. So I know you was a corporate lady, and then you started yoga and mindful business. And I want to know, what is your why behind this transformation?
So getting back to your why is a really interesting thing, because I spent a long time in the corporate world, right? So I'd learned to play a game in a certain way. So when I went to work, I was a particular kind of person. When I spoke, I was a different person. I had all these personas, but they weren't really me, right? So to get to your why, the only way to really get to your why is get to you, right? And I do what I do because it's, like Deb said earlier, it's about being purposeful. So I know clearly that it's my purpose to do what I do. And the reason is because A, it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel hard. And my why has really lined up. So I used to say I could espouse any type of why in any situation I was. I'm here doing this because I'm passionate about this, and I'm doing that. But when it comes right down to the basis of it, I just want to live my best life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want everybody to live their best life. We all should be able to, and in a really authentic way. So when I really dug back to that base core of who I am, I can show up as that person anywhere and everywhere. And so whether I'm here talking to you now, or if I bump into someone in the street, or I meet someone for the first time, I'm exactly the same person. There's no personas anymore. So I understand my why now because I discovered how to get back to that. And I want the same for everyone else. And the reason I want that for everyone else is because everyone else wants it too, right? But
Absolutely.
we don't know how to get it. And sometimes you want it, but you don't even realize that you want it. You know, like those things that happen when you say, I'll be happy when I get my car, when I pay off my house, when I start my new job, when Friday comes, when I get to go on holiday. There's all those I'll be happy when. And that's often because you're not living authentically. I'm happy now, right now, even in the middle of COVID, I'm happy. I was happy. I could still find happiness even in the most difficult of times. Even the day after my mother passed away, I still could find happiness in my life because I found my way back to my authenticity, and that's where my why is, right? And once you're there, everything else makes sense. You are instantly led along the right path, as Deborah would say as well, that you're instantly led in the right direction because you've connected to it. And when you meet like-minded people, like you said, Imran, that I see your why and you see mine because we're holding up mirrors to each other and they just reflect. And so it becomes really obvious. And then once you know your why, you can see the people who know theirs. And you can see really clearly the people that don't know theirs as well, is because you are really clear, like rock solid on what your why is. And so, I mean, I've said to a lot of people, I quit a very well-paying job to do what I'm doing now. And people said to me when COVID started, Jeanette, just go back and get one of those really nice jobs. Just forget about it. It's too hard. I was like, that's not my why. I want to see change in the world. And the only way that change in the world is going to happen, particularly for women, which are my client base, is that I need to step up, right? And so I needed to be in the world authentically as me, and then give other people an opportunity to do the same thing. So if you want to see change in the world, you have to be the change first, and then project the change out, and then other people can be the change. And before we know it, there'll be people, women in boardrooms and women at tables where decisions are being made. And then the balance that we have lost in our society of the equal contribution between men and women will come back. And when that comes back, communities will be happier because we'll be generally happy about decisions that are made because they're made with that even balance between the masculine and the feminine. And I always say someone has to go first, right? So if I had to quit a good job to go first, well, so be it. I'll go first. And, you know, people are already starting to get on board and see what that means. And so there are plenty of other people that are joining in that discussion. But somebody has to go first.
Yeah, that's
might as well be us, mightn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the why not us, right? Why not me? Why not us? And you know, there's some really good stuff in there. As in, you know, when we make a change in ourselves and we start to, like you say, we start to see those that are living their authentic, living in their why. And you talked about the decision making at the table, you know, in corporate businesses and things like that. Every decision we make at any level, and even in the big corporate space, has a huge impact not only on the community of that business, but the community it affects and our environment and Mother Nature and all of that. So, yeah, you know, it's everything that you talk about. It's like yes, you know, and even the fact that some people don't even realize that they're not living in their authentic self because they have, the conditioning. And this isn't about beating up people that don't know. It's just we don't know what we don't know.
Totally.
I was exactly one of those, that type of person where I thought I was living my dream. Same thing in the corporate space. I thought, yes, this is it. I'm going to get to all these different levels and this is going to happen for me in my life. And I get there and it's like, well, hang on, this isn't me. In fact, where is me? Where did I leave me behind? And that was the moment for me. It was like, okay, let's get back to where I need to be. Where's my why? And then let's start from there. I always say to people, let's find your ground zero so you know where to work from.
Totally.
Yeah. Awesome. So COVID, what have you been doing through COVID? Like what sort of have you needed to change things that you've looked at, or like what's kept Jeanette going?
Well, COVID's been really interesting for me. So it's quite a story. So I had my elderly mother I've been caring for her for nearly 8 years. And so she basically lived with me. And as we went into the first stage of lockdown with COVID, I had a studio and I had to close my studio. So I thought, okay, that's all right. We can pivot. And then my mum got quite ill. My mum had been ill for quite some time. She got quite ill. And then right in the middle of the first lockdown, in fact, on Mother's Day, my mother passed away. And so while people were out complaining, saying, oh, I can't go out to a restaurant to have dinner, I can't see my friends, all I did was go between hospital and home while my mother was in palliative care. Now, I knew that she was unwell, so it wasn't necessarily a surprise. But then literally the following Sunday, I had to have my dog put down. I was like, okay, universe, right, we're done now. That's 3. I'm set now for the next 10 years. There's nothing but awesome stuff coming my way now. And I literally woke up the next day, and this is the power of the mind. I woke up the day after my mother finally passed away, and she passed away very gently and in a great space where she was cared for really well. And I was lucky that I was one of those people, and you think about COVID and all the people who've got loved ones in nursing homes and are dealing with that situation as it unfolded. I had my mum at home with me, so I didn't have that extra stress of worrying about that, right? But I literally woke up the day after she passed away, and I said to myself, I just got my life back. Now, I hadn't thought that I'd sacrifice my life in any way to care for my mother. In fact, it was a privilege for me to be able to care for my mother in her later years in life. And we had a fantastic relationship. But I literally had put my life on hold without even realising that I'd done it. And so I woke up and I was like, wow, it's all about me now. And so the whole process of COVID has really been now about focusing with that laser point focus about where the direction that I want to go in. And through COVID, I quite easily pivoted my business online, which wasn't particularly difficult because I'd set up my booking and payment services online anyway. So it's just about going to Zoom. And as you know, Deborah, in the corporate world, we're fairly used to video conferencing. So I'd been in this game for years. So I dealt with vendors internationally. I dealt with people interstate. I ran whole programs of works with people via Zoom meetings that I never met. So I don't find it difficult to develop relationships in that online space. So I said, okay, well, let's jump into Zoom and get going. So I did that, and I managed to do a really nice thing, which I actively am involved in now, is I'm a Girl Guide leader. So I don't just believe in getting women into boardrooms and into places where decisions are being made, but I believe in fostering the young women that are coming through, going to be the leaders of tomorrow. So as a Girl Guide leader, when we went into lockdown all over Australia, I was able to jump into Zooms with Girl Guides all over Australia and do some mindfulness and yoga sessions with them. So I got to meet hundreds of Girl Guides in lots of different spaces from the age of 5 to 17 and take them through some fantastic mindfulness sessions. So I did a whole bunch of that through COVID. And it really has been a great space. I've been able to network and really expand my business. So it doesn't matter where people are in the world because I'm online. I can work with people anywhere. We just need to get the timings to line up, obviously with differences in time. But I think it's expanded the potential of my business, and it's given me opportunities to really extend myself into areas where, you know what it's like when you're in the thick of your business and you're just building, because this is a new business for me. Okay, it's just over a year old. When you're in the thick of that, you're doing. And COVID's given me a chance to sit back and say, and just do some reassessments and realignment and really focus then on that path that goes ahead. So even though I had some of the most difficult things happen to me, I see the potential. So my mindset is not, I don't see disruption, I always see opportunity.
Yes.
And that's because that's the point, the center point that I come from. And no matter what comes at me in life, whether it's a death in my family or whether it's my pet, who incidentally was more like Yoda because he taught me some amazing things. It's like having a little Buddha in my house. That there is always something to learn, and everything that happens to you in life is just bringing you a valuable lesson. And so I've learned some beautiful lessons, and I've had some great experiences, and that will continue to happen. But it happens because I choose for it to happen that way.
Yes, I like that.
And it's a choice.
Yeah.
And it's right from here. It's the heart. I've chosen this way.
Yeah.
That's the great story and great power of you. Like what happened to you and then what happened in the world, everything you manage in a positive way. That's amazing. That's like, I'm also getting some energy from there as well. But I am also want to know like how you come across yoga. And we was talking before some of the misconception about yoga. So we know yoga is exercise or is something that people have lots of misconception. So my two questions: one is how you come across yoga, and what is the misconception about people in yoga?
All right. So I came across yoga. Yoga has this funny thing that it does to people. So I came across yoga when I was very young, and I kind of went to it. It was an exercise class. It seemed all right. It seemed quite cool. It was fun. It was a bit trendy. And I would do it for a little while. I was very active. So I've done a lot of different types of exercise throughout my life, but I've always been very active. In fact, probably overactive, maybe obsessive exercising would probably be the best way to describe me when I was young. So I didn't just run 5 kilometres. I wanted to run a marathon. I couldn't just cycle up the road. I wanted to cycle 100 Ks and then 200 Ks. And so I was a little bit obsessed with exercise. So I tried everything. But it was in the realm of exercise for me, right? So I just saw it as maybe stretching and a bit of relaxation. But what happened was yoga would come in and out of my life. And I found it really interesting in reflection is it always came back into my life when there was trouble. So when things weren't quite right. So when difficult things were happening or circumstances weren't ideal, it's when yoga seemed to just knock on the door and just find its way back in. And then eventually I woke up and I went, hang on a minute. I think there's something in this. Because I keep finding myself back at yoga when things aren't working out in my life. Maybe I need to stick with this. And so that was probably about 10 years ago, and that I really started to invest into it, into my life. And it started to make some significant changes. And they weren't just changes that I could see. They were changes that other people saw. So I lost touch with that stress and that anxiety and that constant angst that seemed to occur in my life. I was an incredibly anxious child, and I was very shy and very reserved. And so I used to get anxiety about the smallest things. We've got mobile phones now, right? So if someone's late, you just send them a text message and know where they are. But when I was a kid, they didn't exist, right? So if you turned up somewhere and your friend wasn't there, I would get anxiety just not knowing where they were if I could find them. I was a pretty highly strung out kid. And I started to think, when I really started to get into yoga and I started to see some changes, I started to think, wow, where am I? Like, who am I? I feel completely lost. Like, I didn't even know who I was. And I thought, maybe I've just lost myself. But I actually don't think I ever really knew. I think I just stumbled through the world just trying to be what everybody else wanted me to be. Right. And I think that's why I became really good at developing personas. So I had the speaking persona on stage. I had the corporate persona. You know, I had the friend persona. I literally had a persona for everything, but none of them were me. Not one of them was actually me. And when I dug back and I started to realize that was the true power of yoga. Now, when you talk about yoga, what is it? I mean, it's a Sanskrit word, right? And loosely translated to English, because most Sanskrit can't properly be translated to English because there aren't adequate words to describe it. But it means yoke or union. So it's the union of all elements of you. Now, I wrote a really interesting blog about this, about the power of yoga in finding awareness, because there's two kind of elements to it. We have this external world, and then we have the internal world within you. So externally, there's 4 factors that you're affected by. So your mind, your body, your energy, and your emotions. And they're the things that face the external world. So they're the ways that you respond to the external stimulus that you get. And let's face it, we're really overstimulated right now, right? So we struggle with those 4 things because and it's getting worse and worse and worse with the amount of stimulus that we have. But then we have the internal work, which is the understanding of who you are. Now, we're so overstimulated outside. How can we possibly go in and understand who we are on the inside? But you can't recognize what's going on properly on the outside until you understand you on the inside. So we've got this kind of conundrum, right? Which one comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? So the other part of what I do, so yoga is kind of dealing with the outside and building an awareness, because once you start to become really aware with what's going on, and that's full sensory awareness, right? So 80% of our time, we basically experience the world through our vision. So it only leaves 20% for the rest, right? And these are pretty cool senses, right? The other 4, but we only experience them 20% of the time on average, right? So by developing that sensory awareness of what's going on in the world around us, we start to get an understanding of what we're seeing and where we are. And then we take the time through mindfulness and we look inside and we start to understand who we are. Then we start to understand who we want to bring to the world. And then we start to see how we want to engage in the world based on who we really are and what we want to bring. So it's a very powerful process to do. But if we stay stuck in the mentality that yoga is exercise, that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? We really need to be able to expand. It's not woo-woo, okay? It's energy is science. We've got a central nervous system. It's biology. I've studied science. There's nothing woo-woo about it. And we all understand that we have emotions, but we really need to step back and stop and reassess and think about what you want. And once you fall into that, when I see with a client the very first time that light comes on, when they started to get a taste of who they really are, and Deborah will have seen this as well, is that there's a sparkle that comes into their eye and they get really excited. And you say, how do you feel right now? And they say, I feel amazing. I said, that's because right now you are being you. And that is amazing. And like, I want to be like this forever. And I'm like, great, do it. Because, and the more, and you people, we get tastes of it, right? So everyone can think of an experience that you've had in life where you've gone, oh my God, I feel so good right now. You know, like when you've been into that meeting and you just nailed it and everything went really well and all the words that you needed to have, they just flowed and they just came out perfectly. And you're like, I totally nailed that. That's because you were being you. Because you nail everything in life when you're you. Nothing's hard when you're you. It's like, it's all you have to do is keep focusing on going back to that little taste of you, and then you starts to build out. and it gets substance. And it's interesting because I met someone quite recently who said to me, Jeanette, you should be on a stage talking to people. He said you have this stage presence. And it's interesting because when I stand next to people, I'm like 5'8". I'm not particularly a large person. And I suppose that's above average height for a woman. But I stand next to people and I'm having a conversation with them. And then we might be opposite a window or a mirror, and I catch the reflection of the two of us, and I realise I come up to like here on them. And like, they're so much taller than me. And I was like, and then I look back and I think, they don't look that tall face to face. And that's because when you find you and you know who you are from the inside, you feel bigger than you actually look. So you hold, there's a presence about you that you hold because, and you can be vulnerable and you can be open and you can share anything, the deepest, darkest of secret, the biggest insecurity, you can just pour it out from you. Because it doesn't matter how people respond, because when you know you're not relying on anybody to provide any external feedback to make that okay, because you're totally okay with it.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting how that works. And I've seen that happen to other people. They've said, wow, I thought I was taller than everybody. And then I looked at everybody in the lift and I'm like the shortest person in the whole lift. I'm like, good, that's you.
Yeah.
Be you.
Nice.
So,
yeah, you mentioned that sparkle in the eye, and that's the reward for me. Seeing that is that just I just kind of high five myself, and it's like, and it's not high fiving myself. It's like yes, and there are certain parts of my program where when that happens, and I just when we were face to face, I'd sort of go up and shake their hand and go, hello, nice to meet you finally, right? And that sort of thing. And it's like, it's so rewarding to see people just break it away and be okay with who they've just discovered being themselves. So that's absolutely awesome. But I loved everything that you spoke about there. That's just absolutely awesome.
It's like you freed them, wouldn't you say, Deborah? It's like you freed them.
Yeah.
It's like you've literally removed the cage from around them and they're out. And it's like, yes, another one's out.
Yes.
Like totally high-fiving. I get the high fives. I do it all the time. I'm like, yes.
Awesome. That was so cool. All right. You got anything else there, Imran? I could just keep going all day.
Dear viewers, if you love to comment, feel free to ask anything to our guest about yoga, about mindfulness, or about Jeanette. I think Jeanette will happy to answer all the questions. We got a comment that says one of our friends, she loved Jeanette conversation, so that's great. And also, if you have anything to know about yoga, mindfulness, or about anything that me and Deborah do, feel free to ask. We love your comments. And other thing, I remember you both like read one book. This is a similarity. That's Jim Quick write a book, Limitless. And I was talking to you and I was talking to Deborah as well. It's the same book. And when I was talking to you, you so say you forget the name. And Jim Quick was the same experience. And I haven't read the book. This is my tick list of the list to read the book. But what you guys are talking about inside you, but you already have that thing inside you. You don't need to hire anything or you have to import anything from outside. But you have something on you that you can use, and you have that sparkle. So, Jeanette, tell me about how you help people in this time, or through yoga and mindfulness, how you help, and if anyone wants to contact you, how can they contact you?
All right. So the way that I help is in two ways. So people come into my business through 4 different avenues. Sometimes people come in, I do a Thursday night relaxation session. So we do breathing, we do movement, which is generally stretching, and then we do a guided meditation. And it gives people a taste of what's available to them in that whole suite of yoga. So if they've never done yoga before, it's a really good entry point. And then people sometimes migrate from that and they go into yoga coaching. So that's where I help them on their individual yoga journey through one-to-one coaching. So what this does is it enables them to get on a good path. So I create a sequence for them that's specifically related to what they're trying to achieve. And we always start the very first session, and it's completely free, right? So if somebody's interested in doing yoga coaching, they can come and do what I call a yoga assessment. So this is where I get them to move, and we see how their body moves, because everything that happens in your life appears in those 4 external factors that I talked about. So it appears in your mind, it appears in your body, it appears in your emotions and your energy, every single thing. So when people sometimes, when people are stressed and they're really anxious and they're kind of guarding their heart, they tend to lean over and they're slumped over, right? And when people are confident, they tend to be open, right? And so there's often blockages within the body. So when you start to move the body physically by creating this openness and this expansion in the chest, some really great things happen. We start to open up emotionally, and we start to open up mentally, and start to open up energetically. So we can see those things occur. So that can start to happen in that yoga coaching space. And then into the mindfulness is once you've started to set a plan and create a bit of a routine in your life, and it starts in small steps. It's not about engulfing the world. You don't have to do what I did and, run marathons. It's okay to walk the block, to start with, and build up to these things, right? But then mindfulness, once you've developed that awareness externally and you're starting to understand what the world looks like, then with mindfulness, you get to step inside. Now, the stepping inside process is the interesting process. And for me, it's about, I meet people where they are. Some people they just want to dig down a little, okay? They just want to get a little bit of an understanding. And some people want to go really, really deep. Some people know what stopped them in their life. Some people know there's a very specific traumatic event that occurred in their life that stopped them dead in their tracks. And they know that they've been hanging on to that and it slowed them down, right? But some people don't know what that was. And so the people that I know what it is, we can go straight to that problem and we can work from that problem forward. And I describe it in a way that mindfulness and really uncovering who you are is like, imagine you're floating down a river, right? So life is a river. You're floating down the river, and throughout life, things happen to you. And as circumstances happen, people disappoint you, people upset you, people offend you, people say mean things, people don't allow you to do things, you withdraw. And basically what you do is you grab a tree on the side of the bank and you kind of held at that tree for a moment, and then you eventually do continue down that river of life, but you've left a little bit of you back in that tree, right? Now, it could be a big part of you've left in that tree. If you've had some experience with major trauma in your life, there could be a really big part of you that's stuck in a tree. And the beautiful thing about mindfulness is you can always go back and retrieve that piece of you. It's yours. There's nothing to stop you from going back and taking it, because chances are it happened to you when you were a child. And so you assess that situation and you left that piece of you on a tree. Maybe for me, when I was 10, I can remember, I've looked back and I can remember the things as early as 8 in my life, some of the trauma that I suffered. But I remember one when I was 10. And when I uncovered it and I realized it was no longer relevant, I could use my mind as a mature adult and analyze it in a way and say, that's ridiculous. I can't believe that I still believe that now because of something that I learnt when I was 10.
Yeah.
So you can use the fact that you're in a much more advanced position in your life now than you were then. You made the decision at the time based on the information and the knowledge that you have, but you can now make a decision based on the information and the knowledge that you have to go back and reclaim your self-esteem, reclaim your self-worth, reclaim your love for yourself, your compassion for yourself, all those things that you left behind, reclaim them and take them back and then move on forward in your life. And if I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't be here. I write a blog And I wrote something when I was 10, and my teacher told me in front of my whole class that I couldn't possibly have written it, so I must have cheated. And I didn't. I wrote it myself, but I cried for days. And I never wrote, like not sharing anything creatively until I was in my 40s. So it was like 30 years. I left a piece of my self-worth on a tree back upriver. So they're imprints, right? So I help people. I don't drag them back. I don't push them back. Together we co-create. So together we take that journey back, and we go back and find where those things are. And then we rationalize what they mean now, which then enables us to release them from our body, release them from those 4 places. And then you can get on with your life, and you can say, I can do this now. You know, I had a mother who was 65, and she said, I told her to read about quantum physics because it explains energy. And she said to me, I'm not reading quantum physics. I can't do science. I've always been terrible at science. I said, when did you decide you were terrible at science? She said, when I went to school. And I said, how old were you then? She said, 17. I said, how old are you now? She said, 70. And I said, do you think maybe it's a good time to let that one go? Because I think you're probably quite good at science now if you give it a go. And so we don't even know, we don't even realise that we've held them, right? We're white-knuckled holding on to these things. And most of the time, they're not even our assessments of ourselves. They're other people's assessments. Like your teacher says to you, you're terrible at science. You are going to amount to nothing. And when you're 8, that's wrenching, and that leaves a really strong mark on you. But you can always go back and release them. So that's what we do. And sometimes no one knows where they are. So sometimes we start from where we are and we slowly step back and we just uncover them. And that's the light that's the twinkle in the eye, you know, that Deborah and I were talking about. Because as you start to step back, they release things, and then you start to see more and more and more and more, and just keep on going until eventually you've reclaimed all the parts of you and you're whole. And then you can continue through the world being the whole person that you were always meant to be. And I say a common thing to people these days is that stop looking outside for the manual for you, because the manual is on the inside and you've had it all along.
Yep. We forget that we came into this world with the perfect blueprint. We just allowed stamps to be put on them, which you talk about holding onto the tree, leaving parts of us behind, and that sparkle in the eye is about realizing that I can see the blueprint, and I can see the imperfections, but I know that I can now get those back. So that's just amazing, and I love that analogy of the river holding onto the tree. And yes, we do. Over time we learn to let go, but we don't learn why we let go, or we, like you say, we leave it behind. So that was absolutely awesome.
We leave some skin.
Yeah. Wow. And I just want to quickly touch on the fact that you talked about, why that yoga was something that kept coming back into your life, and that's another point that I talk to my clients about. It's like, when things keep popping up, there's a reason for it. Let's discover what that was for. Well, I think that was, we said this when we first started, that we could just talk all day. And I wish that we had the time to do that, but we probably should start wrapping up, and really, really appreciative of you giving us and all of our viewers your time today, Jeanette, because and the stuff that you've imparted with everybody here is just is gold. And there is so much to learn about oneself. There's a quote that I saw the other day, and it's get excited about being lost, because sometimes the best journeys aren't discovered until one becomes lost. So
absolutely.
Get excited.
Get lost. Yeah.
So awesome. Thank you very much, Jeanette. That was so valuable.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you both. Absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Okay.
She is amazing. Her story is amazing. Always like
I
her
love
mom's
it.
died, her favorite dogs died. Still
Yeah.
positive next day. So
Yeah.
that's amazing power in the mind. And I love both of you guys talking about, because you both are NLP personality and spark in the eyes, and you guys can see, and that's great. I like, and also like nothing you need to import. You everything have in your mind, and you can rule the world with the power of your mind. And
Absolutely.
that's amazing.
Absolutely. We forget that we are so, well, no, sorry, we don't connect the fact that we are so powerful in our mind. However, we use that power to stop us from getting what we want. Now, and it works, we succeed. I heard somebody say the other day, what was it? Something like man-made millionaire, right? But nobody says man-made failure. I'm a man-made failure. But we seem to tend to work on that space more often than trying to expand ourselves to be the best. So recognize that we use our mind subconsciously, and it can stop us from getting what we need, which only proves that we can reverse that and use it for exactly what we need. So Limitless, that book, my limitation was I literally would tell myself I could not read, but I could read. I was reading all the time, but because I couldn't read fast enough, I therefore convinced myself I couldn't read. And the book, but I've always known that, and the book Limitless by Jim Quick just allowed me to, that was my personal challenge. It allowed me to break through that. And now I'm reading, I'm reading a book a week, and it's just, again, expansion, be confident in self. Anyway, okay, sorry, we've gone on for a bit, but as usual, please, if you didn't catch all of this, go back and see it, because Jeanette dropped some valuable stuff there that will benefit everybody. So next week we will let everybody know, Monday, Tuesday maybe, who we've got on next week. What else we got, Imran?
Yeah, and Brian Duckworth, he said thanks to Jenny and thanks Deborah Imran, of course. He was one of the guests, and
Yes.
And he's an amazing business coach, and like he's a great person. Brian Duckworth, thanks Brian a lot. And
All right.
guys,
Okay.
give us a feedback how we are going. This is our 10th episode, so your feedback is always gold for us. So feel free to give us a feedback to me, Deborah, and if you like to join our program, also contact with us. And you have an amazing week this week, and also waiting, everyone like me are waiting for Sundays. What will happen to our business? Hopefully something good will happen.
Yes.
So I want to say bye to everyone. Deborah, you want to say something or want to say
No,
bye?
just you know what? I know there's some anxiousness around Sunday, but just be in the moment and assess what you get told. Be open to what you get told. Don't look for, oh, he's going to stop this, he's going to stop that. Just take in what comes. Take in the information, and then work with it from there. So be open-minded. And that's it.
Thank
okay.
you.
See
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.